So let me ask you a question. Have you ever prayed and just felt like your prayers were hitting the ceiling? Well, I'm sure we've all been there, right? We just feel like God's not listening or He's not even there. But today I want to share a story with you about my son. And he actually prayed and asked God to help him fight his battles for him, and God did exactly that. So before we moved into this house, we actually lived in an apartment in the city. It wasn't a big city, but we definitely had our fair share of crime, that's for sure. You know, even in just our apartment complex, we had people getting arrested for substances. We had drive-bys. We had some pretty rough stuff. And we had these two maintenance guys that worked there. Now, one of them was a super cool dude. He's actually still there to this day. But the other guy, I didn't trust him at all. I mean, he just put off that vibe. We knew he had some issues. He was a strange fella, to say the least. I mean, he was such a strange guy that I would actually try to make sure that he wasn't working the day I put in a maintenance request, because I really just didn't even want him in my house. Now, you may say, you know, you're just judging somebody, but sometimes you have a feeling, you have this God feeling that somebody is not right. And you definitely don't want to ignore that feeling. So there was a day where I just got off work and I walked up to my apartment, and he comes walking out the door. And he sees me and he kind of acts strange for a second. And then he says, "Oh, hey man, I fixed your toilet for you." And I said, "Yeah, I didn't put in a request for my toilet." And he's like, "Oh dude, I'm at the wrong apartment. I'm such an idiot." Now, as soon as he did this, of course, I knew something was up. Something was going on. So when he left, I went into the apartment, and I'm seriously looking everywhere. I'm looking to see if anything was stolen. I'm seriously looking in the vents for cameras. I'm doing everything because he had no right to be there. And again, as suspicious as he was acting, I knew something was going on. But I couldn't find anything. I looked everywhere. So about a week or so went by, and my son was actually saving up for something. I don't remember what it was. He was about 10 years old, so he's probably saving up for, you know, a video game or something like that. But that kid had saved up pretty close to $200. And he comes out of his room one day after counting his money, and he says, "Dad, I've got $100 missing." And I'm like, "Are you sure? You sure you didn't spend it or take it to your mom's or something?" And he goes, "No, Dad, I had $160 and now all I have is 60. And as soon as he said that, it dawned on me. That's what he took. This guy went so low that he stole $100 out of a kid's piggy bank. It's not like he didn't know it was a kid's. You know, it was literally a mason jar sitting in his closet with a whole bunch of change and a bunch of dollar bills and 20s and stuff. He knew what he was taking. So my son gets really upset, of course, and I told him, I was like, "Listen, I think I know where your money went." And I told him I thought it was the maintenance guy. Now he gets upset and asks me, "What are you going to do? You're going to turn him in? You're going to call the cops or what?" And I calmed him down and I said, "Listen, buddy, here's the thing. One, we don't have any proof. And two, I didn't really tell him this. I knew that him and the manager were having a relationship. She had some issues as well. So I didn't tell him this, but I knew if I turned him in, it wouldn't really do me any good. So what I decided to do instead, I said, 'Hey buddy, we believe in prayer, right? We know that God fights our battles for us.'" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "What we need to do is we need to pray and we need to put this in God's hands." And that kid goes, "All right, let's do it, Dad." So we prayed, and we prayed that God would fight our battles, that he would deal with the situation. And he was totally confident. He just goes, "All right." And he goes right back to his games and does whatever. So about a week or so later, I saw the other maintenance guy outside working around my apartment. I think he was changing out like a refrigerator or something. So I went outside just to talk to him, and I said, "Hey man, what's going on?" He goes, "Did you hear about dude?" I said, "No, what's going on?" He said, "Yeah, my boy got in trouble a little bit." Now, they didn't get along at all. He was being sarcastic. He did not like him at all. He knew he was trouble too and tried to avoid him. He gave him the benefit of a doubt. Again, super nice guy. So I asked him, "What happened?" So he says, "So I clock in and I'm walking out. It's about 8 o'clock. And he says, I'm going on the grounds to start working. And I see him bolting down the sidewalk. He's like speed walking. And so he said, the first thing I thought of is like, man, maybe he's just late for work. So he gets really close to him and he says, "Hey man, don't worry, I've been late before too." And then he says he speed walks right past me. And he's like, "What the heck, man?" Well, he said, all of a sudden, these cops come running around the corner from the apartment building, run. He takes off running. The cops actually tackle him, put handcuffs on him, and throw him in the car. So he said, I went in the office and I told the manager, "Yeah, I don't think your boy's coming in today." So I asked him what happened. What did he get busted for? Well, they ended up finding a whole bunch of substances on him. Pretty heavy stuff, apparently. And yeah, he ended up going to jail for quite a while. So I turn around, I go in the apartment, and my son's in there playing a game. And I said, hey, buddy, come here. I want to tell you something. He's like, all right. And he comes in and he goes, what's up? And I was like, well, you know how we prayed for God to fight our battles for us? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, well, let me tell you what happened. So I tell him the story. I tell him how he went to jail and all this stuff. And you know what my son says? He goes, oh, okay, cool. So am I getting my money back or what? That kid was so confident in his prayer. He knew God was going to fight for him. And of course, he wanted his $100 back. But I told him, I was like, listen, man, we're probably not going to get it back from him, but God will reward you for praying. He'll take care of you. He'll bless you. Just got to let it go. So he was sad. He was disappointed, but God has since blessed him, with quite a bit of money and some of the stuff that he wants. So now you may hear this story and you may say, man, that's just a coincidence. Listen, when this happens again and again and again, I could go on and on. I could probably make YouTube videos for the next year just on all the things that God has done. Man, eventually you get to the point where this like coincidence is ridiculous. You can't say it's coincidence anymore. It's the same thing as the Bible saying the Bible's not true. There are thousands of prophecies in the Bible and almost every one of them's come to pass. And we looked it up the other day and it's something like 200 quadrillion to 1 that these things could actually happen. If somebody just made up a book and wrote a bunch of stuff, it's impossible for this stuff to happen. Impossible. Infinitely impossible. So my point is, no matter what it is you got going on in your life, pray and give it to God. I always believe that God answers 3 different ways. Yes, no, and not yet. God always answers our prayers. He may not answer it the way you want, but He hears you, especially if you put your faith in Jesus Christ. You get sin out of your life. You stop making excuses for stuff. He will take care of you. He doesn't expect you to be perfect, but He does want you to pursue Him, pursue holiness, pursue being pleasing in His sight. You see it as a marriage. If you're in a marriage and you want your marriage to last, you have to be loyal to your spouse. Jesus is He is the bridegroom and the church is the bride. We have to be loyal. But the more you're loyal to Him, He can't not be loyal, but sometimes He'll allow you to go through things that you don't understand and things that are painful because He's a good Father as well, right? God calls Himself the Father, the bridegroom, our friend. He covers all the bases. Keep believing that God's going to come through for you. So I'm going to be putting out some more stories pretty soon. I don't necessarily know what I'm going to put out, but we're going to be starting something new and I'm very excited. So, if you've ever been into, conspiracy, if you've ever been into, AI and trying to understand what's going on, I actually have a friend of mine. We're going to be getting together on this channel and we're going to be sharing some stuff about what's going on and how it ties to the Bible, which I'm very, very excited about. Totally unexpected. I did not expect to go down this road, but I am pumped about it. So if you guys are interested in this stuff, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and we'll see you in the next one.